All right, ladies and gentlemen, the latest in the saga of Ferguson is that the grand jury has reached a decision. We understand that the grand jury has been released and that the parents of Michael Brown have been notified of the decision. We still do not know what the decision is. If it comes down, we will certainly bring it to you immediately. And when the press conferences from the governor and anyone else, the prosecutor, take place, we will hopefully bring those to you as well. Joining us right now to talk about all of this on the Malzberg panel is the host of the syndicated radio show, The Roger Hedgecock Show, Roger Hedgecock, and columnist and contributing editor for TheRoot.com, David Swerdlick. And gentlemen, let's start with you, David. What do you expect to happen?
Well, I hate to speculate. I think, though, with all these weeks of buildup, I think we're probably not going to see an indictment. Again, not sure about that. And if we don't see an indictment, I think there will be people protesting. There will be a sense of outrage in the community. But I'm not going to assume that people are going to not be orderly or not protest in an organized manner. So, I think we're going to know pretty soon. And we're so close, I don't see any reason to think anything's going to be different than what we've been talking about for the last couple of weeks.
Roger?
Well, I agree with that. I think what we're going to find is that the people around in Ferguson have already made up their mind that either the officer is guilty of a murder or he's not indictable for anything, and there isn't going to be a lot of compromise. There isn't going to be a lot of healing at this point. Whatever the decision is, there's going to be, in my view, a lot of demonstrations, potential rioting, a lot of confrontations, a lot of burning. This is what all of the national action people out of the Reverend Al and all the rest of it have been working up to.
Well, Roger, I agree with you on the if the verdict goes one way, but why would you say if let's say there is an indictment, why would there still be the same kind of response, do you think?
People are there to riot, in my view. They're there to demonstrate and possibly riot. I was at at a World Series one time when I was on the losing side and my team lost, the other team won, but there was a riot. We were in the winning team's stadium and there was a riot because they were so happy they won. I think rioting is a part of what goes on in these things.
David?
I mean, I just fundamentally disagree with Roger that, that you automatically have to assume that there's going to be rioting. I'm not saying it's not possible, and as I've said many times on your show, no responsible person would condone that, Steve, and no civil rights leaders, no responsible commentators have called for rioting. What Roger's saying is actually just not accurate. Reverend Al Sharpton and others, the family of Michael Brown, have specifically said publicly that they want people to protest, but they want people to protest in an organized.
Well, David, he didn't say that. He didn't say that they called for it. But you could call for one thing. You could be Mahmoud Abbas and say one thing in English and one thing in code kind of thing.
If you're a civil rights leader and you're calling for protests and you're calling for explicitly for peaceful protest, I don't see how you accuse them then of working up to a riot. I'm not saying that there won't be some people out there who want to, lash out, and if they break windows or burn something down, they should be arrested. But the vast majority of the protests that have surrounded this whole episode have been peaceful.
All right, by the way, guys, go ahead, Roger.
Well, the peaceful protests are going to go on. There's going to be rioting because those folks are there. Al Sharpton and the rest of them are there to explain to all of us later after the rioting that, see, this is what injustice has caused. No justice, no peace. They're already there to apologize for the rioting. They're not calling for it, but they're there to apologize for it.
All right, by the way, I just want to go on the record and say that I fear, again, based on the facts that we know, and if those are true, I fear that the grand jury might feel pressure and might feel pressure that, hey, you know what, there are going to be riots. There's been threats of riots. There's going to be destruction if we don't hand down a verdict that shows an indictment. So let's put it to a jury. Let a jury decide. We don't need that kind of pressure and responsibility. I think that's unfortunate because I don't think that gives justice to the officer one way or another. but it's unfortunate that they get to see TV and watch all the commentary and commentators, and I just think that that's a bad thing. Guys, when we come back, I want you to hear President Obama, speaking of the rioting and the protests, and President Obama in his interview with George Stephanopoulos yesterday puts the onus, and again, this is what gets me, is already setting up the cops to be the bad guys. Because Obama, you're going to hear him say that the cops need to use better judgment on, like, picking out the bad guys. I don't know how you pick out who threw the Molotov cocktail or who threw the brick or who threw the bottle from a crowd of thousands, but Obama thinks it's possible. We'll let you hear that, and you guys weigh in on it. The Malzberg panel, ladies and gentlemen, will continue. Of course, you know where we are. We're right here on Newsmax Television on the Steve Malzberg Show from Ferguson. Don't go away.